Rolex is estimated to sell between $5 to $8 billion of watches per year.
Unbelievable.
Second up, Omega with $1.9 billion.
Big delta.
That is a huge delta. But if there is one brand to do it, you would think maybe it's Omega, but it's not.
It's Tudor.
It's Tudor. In 2019, Tudor sales were reported to be doubling year on year by at least one specific AD, and just basically said they're thrilled. They're not even in a popular location, but Tudor sales are rocketing.
Really?
Obviously, we're 4 years later, but still, Tudor is a baby brand, like a rebirth of a baby brand, that I think could get to a level, and it probably is at that level already, of concern for brands like Omega, for brands like Longines.
For sure. I mean, listen, Tudor is a Rolex company, so Rolex doesn't lose either way. Even in the imaginary world that Tudor were to eclipse Rolex, which I don't think that will happen, but to be the second place just makes Rolex hold the first two places, right?
Which is insane, because it's already Rolex and then everybody else. This would be Rolex and then Tudor and then everybody else.
And the reason why this is possible, and Tudor, while obviously a famous company, but Tudor doesn't have the independent cachet that Omega has, right? That other historical brands have, Longines as well.
Right.
But they've got I think a winning formula. And that's biggest backer that you could would possibly ask for in the watch world.
Is the greatest watch brand of all time.
It's the greatest watch brand of all time.
Yeah.
What is up, watch fam? I'm Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop.
My name is Michael, and this video is sponsored by Domain Money, which just got so popular that the App Store was starting to put them on the front page and stuff.
Yeah, more on them later.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my vintage Cartier Santos Carré. Look at that unpolished watch. It looks pretty good. It's actually kind of tight on me right now because I think I'm just hot.
It's hot. It's hot in here. It's the summer, yeah.
This watch is a beautiful yellow gold Cartier from the 1980s. It is not available in the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop, but a whole bunch of other stuff is from Rolex, Tudor, Omega, Cartier, etc. Even Patek.
Is the 321 still in the store?
The 321 still is in the store. Oh. So definitely head on over to the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop and take a look and just explore vintage watches. It's super educational and it's great. So take a look.
Yeah. So today we're going through a pros and cons list. The pros that I think Tudor has to actually be positioned to be this mammoth in the industry, and then the cons. What are they missing? Because they are missing a lot of very, very big things, but they also, I think they have the right idea, which maybe was a brainchild between Rolex and Tudor, whatever it may be, to become the dominating brand in almost every category.
Yep.
And then we're going to, obviously, surpassing Rolex would be probably the biggest news in the world, because a brand that is more recognizable than virtually any other brand in the world being surpassed is wild. But I don't think it's that hard for it to get to number 2 in a few years. We'll look at that at the end, but we'll hit pros first.
So the first pro is obviously an approachable price, right? Tudor is far more attainable to the world than Rolex is. Of course, Rolex is, aspirational, sure. Of course, but basically everyone wants to buy a Rolex at some point, but Tudor is far more attainable. Frankly, more attainable than its competing brands as well.
I was going to say, yeah.
Omegas are at this funny price point where they're less expensive than Rolex by and large. So there's that, right? There's a value there.
Less expensive and more attainable. Did you say more attainable?
Well, they're less expensive. Oh, more attainable you mean by access.
I want a Speedmaster, I get a Speedmaster.
But they are higher than brands like Tudor and Longines in price.
Yes.
So it does raise the question once you get over that entry-level hump, right, which is that $3,000 to $5,000 range, where people say, I don't know, do I really want an Omega at $9,000?
Yeah, what's different about this watch?
Exactly.
Oh, it's meant to have certified. Well, I thought you said the Tudor was. Well, yeah, they are too.
They are too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Omega has worked so hard to compete with Rolex that actually, in many ways, it has opened up the field for a brand like Tudor to really capitalize in that mid-range, that $3,000 to $6,000 range, to just own it and just dominate, right? Just dominate.
Yeah, and Rolex recently raised their prices, which further separates Tudor and Rolex, which makes it even different.
Exactly.
And I do want to say this right away. Me saying what's the difference between Omega and Tudor, whatever, meant as certified. Rolex doing $5 to $8 billion in a year is not because of the people watching this video. We are the people that say, well, the case finishing is different. Right. This is different. This is different. I'm talking about a guy named Doug
right.
in an AD
Exactly.
that says, why does this watch say 300M? What
Exactly.
does that mean? Those are the specific people I'm talking about.
Right, regular, people that are interested in watches but don't dedicate hours of their lives to watching watch content, right? Not you guys, everyone else, are more easily, right, pushed in one direction or another by an authorized dealer, right? They're not going to have a retort to why, Omega and Tudor are not the same. They're going to say, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense on, boilerplate level. Yeah, sure.
The finishing is different. What does that mean? We'll see this curve on the case.
You lost my attention.
I don't like the curve.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's where it gets very fascinating.
Exactly.
The next point for Tudor, the most boring. This video is sponsored by Domain Money. Shout out to Brian, our advisor.
What's up,
from
B?
Domain Money. What's up, B? Everybody needs, obviously, to keep track of their finances, but you have taxes, you have investments, you have savings, you have insurance. Everything is all spread out. Domain Money's goal is to condense all of that to make your life easier and to pair you with an advisor that can answer any question you could possibly have about all of those things.
Exactly. They're well-rounded consultants. Brian, our guy, is a fantastic guy. They're there to support you no matter what. They're there to answer all of your questions and to provide a kind of a financial, transparency, right? Kind of make you more fluent and able to, make better decisions, be smarter, right? Have better control of your money. Not only how to save it, but how not to waste it, right? How to avoid,
how to invest it, how to optimize your insurance, how to set up savings account, high
budgets.
Yield. The amount of people I've had to say, do you know what a high yield savings account is obscene.
Yep.
And all of that work, obviously with all those different advisors, would be a very expensive thing. But with Domain Money, it is only $79 a month.
One centralized source. Oh my God, it's infinitely easier. It's so much less anxiety. You don't need to manage the rapport with 4 or 5 different people from 4 or 5 different specialties. You've got one individual, one consultant that helps you and answers your questions and makes you a more informed human being, right? I mean, that's it.
Yeah. So if you want to manage all of your money in one place with one advisor, you can go to domainmoney.com/Theo and Harris or check out our link below.
I highly recommend you do.
The most boring yet beautiful watches. Again, we're talking about Doug.
Yeah.
Doug sees a Black Bay and is like, perfect.
Totally.
Now, what's very interesting, I was thinking about this today, is Omega's formula with the Speedmaster, for example, is you have the straight up Speedmaster. Then you have limited editions. Then you have variants.
Yep.
Essentially, all the same watch or a different style watch that's still a chronograph.
Yep.
Right? Tudor's interesting thing, again appealing to Doug, is if he walks in and puts on the Black Bay 54, for example, likes the style of the watch, but if he's a big guy, he says,
it's too small.
So he goes up one level. He goes up to the 58. Still too small? He goes up one level to the 42.
100%.
He's getting the same watch at 3 different sizes, which 9.999 out of 10 guys are happy with a black, blue, or maybe green watch.
Maybe.
So why release 20 different limited editions when you can release the same watch in 3 different sizes? And if I go with Doug wants a big one, I take a small one, you made 2 sales.
Exactly.
The retort is not usually like, oh, dude, like, this blue and black is cool. I wish you had like flaming red.
Exactly. All the marketing money, all the marketing efforts that are spent behind promoting the Black Bay aren't wasted on anyone, because anyone can own a Black Bay. Anyone maybe should own a Black Bay, right? That's kind of the Tudor philosophy, right? They're, if they just keep promoting these very small groups or collections of watches, but the collections themselves are enormous, right? But it's just only a couple of names, Black Bay, right? Anyone is going to find a flavor of Black Bay for them.
Which is why Rolex has been dominating. I think I forget how many watches there, 8 or something like that.
And I can't say the same thing about Omega, right? There's not a Speedmaster for everybody. Speedmasters are great.
I'm dying to get a Speedmaster.
Yeah.
Dying to get there's no version of a Speedmaster 54.
There's a whole world of people that just like, yeah, it's cool, but it's not for me.
It's too big. It's too this. It's too that.
Yeah, and I get that. I don't think the Speedmaster should be small necessarily. Right? We've had this debate before.
Yeah.
But like on a market level, right? Market reach and capture, of course there should be more variance, right? In size, things that regular people, right, could get trapped in the web of.
Well, we don't have any data on this, of course, but like that's the interesting thing. Like we did a 5-year test of the Black Bay line, including the 54, the 58, the original. We'll toss in the Pelagos 39 because that's kind of similar, and compared it to this hypothetical 3-piece Speedmaster set, which is 36, 38, 42, or whatever range that may be. What happens to sales for both of those? Because I'm assuming most people are not upset that the Speedmaster is a black dial.
Right.
Or that it's made out of steel and not titanium, or not made of ceramic, or not the dark side of the moon, or this and that. I'm assuming most people are like, it's too big. It's a shame it's too big.
Exactly.
And then the Black Bay 54, it's a shame it's too small. Well, don't worry, we have something to cover you there.
Exactly. They also have it in a chronograph, right? Like, well, that's too busy. Great, we have a time only, right? Oh, well, this isn't, I wish I had more going on. Right? We have a chronograph. It's a Black Bay. You wanted to came in here for a Black Bay. You're going to leave with a Black Bay, right? That's why Tudor has had such wild success, right? Yeah. So, it's kind of like again, not to everybody, God knows, $3,000 is a ton of money. $500 is a lot of money. Of course. That's enough. We all know this, right? But to a lot of people that walk into a vintage watch shop, the Tudor price point, they're like, yeah, why not? Sure, I could actually do that. I could do that.
Yeah.
Right? That's fewer people can say that about Omega, fewer Rolex, fewer all these other brands, right? Tudor is at this really fascinating entry-level price in luxury, watches. And once you kind of say, yeah, I consider a Tudor, if you're into the Black Bay, there isn't one there certainly is one for you. Be it Black Bay or be it Pelagos, right? It's amazing.
Now, this goes back to when I was just editing for T&H. I was editing a podcast between you and Paul. Long time ago. Very long time ago. And you and Paul were talking about the difficulty in rerouting someone that walks into the AD with a purpose. I walk in, I want an Explorer.
Yep.
That's what I want.
Yep.
Your most difficult job is that. If you have an Explorer, super easy.
Yep.
But trying to get me to a different brand, incredibly difficult.
Yep.
I would argue, and we'll use the Explorer as an example, we can also use the Sub, and we'll get into a con when we start to branch out from there. It is a much harder redirect to an Aquaterra than it is to a Black Bay 36.
Agreed.
I'm like, it's kind of similar. Like, 100%. And it's actually a sister brand of the same company.
100%. I also think, just, on that note, right, the Black Bay collection is, and I love the Aquaterra. I think the Aquaterra is great.
Yeah, same.
But the Black Bay collection, I think, is more mass market, even its approach to design, masculinity, right? I think that a lot more people are going to say, it's not just masculinity, but it's also just the lifestyle, right? That's a tougher watch. Whereas Aquaterra, which is plenty tough, but even just by the virtue of its thin bracelet, which I happen to adore, right?
Same.
And its polished case, which I happen to adore.
Same.
It's like, it's a little dressy, isn't it? I would never say that, but I know en masse men would.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on from there, we have, and we'll take these are smaller points before we get into the cons, but loved by virtually everyone online. Of course, so is Omega. Of course, so is Rolex. But Tudor, if you think about history and everything like that, is legendary. But this new rebirth of Tudor shouldn't be getting the press that it does when you look at all of these other old brands.
It's almost ridiculous how much positive press Tudor gets, and they deserve it. But
pure positive.
Exactly.
Not what should Tudor fix, but this is the perfect size. Tudor finally listened. A watch brand that listened. Tudor's doing insane this and that.
So again, go back to this client journey, right? Maybe he looked up Tudor before. Maybe he looked up Tudor after seeing the fact that they're approachably priced and there's one for him because there's one for everybody. Maybe he says, okay, I'm going to come back, right? He goes home. What does he do? He's going to Google it. He's going to YouTube it. Even if he's not a guy that goes on YouTube about watches, even if this isn't a watch YouTube guy, his customer journey is going to be like, yeah, I'll look up a video. Right? Maybe I'll look up hashtag Black Bay on Instagram. Right? Where are people looking for resource material? Right? Because Google Images isn't going to do it because everything is studio based, so it's not as real. Right? He wants real people's thoughts, opinions. He wants real people's photos. He wants to see what it's going to look like on his wrist.
Yeah.
This is not the watch geek. This is the regular guy.
To the level where I said grade 2 titanium is not as good as grade 5, and then for me because grade 5 is harder, whatever. And everybody that had a Pelagos 39 was like, are you kidding? This is a fantastic watch. This and that. Like, it is a storm.
So that guy is going to now, in his customer journey, he's going to say, wow, geez, everything is really positive. This is a great watch. I'm looking for the downside. There isn't a downside. What the fuck?
Even that video where the guy said the material was not his liking, he got destroyed in the comments.
Exactly. So now that guy is going to say, okay, I really ought to do this. Right? I really ought to. I'm going to go back into the store, or he's going to email a sales rep, right? But this is why online content or digital content, video content is so important. Not just journalism, not just reviews, but real video is so important to watch brands, right? Because this is such a part of the customer journey. We're not selling toothpaste here. You don't just walk in and say, well, what box appeals to me? What brand do I have loyalty with? You leave. You Google it, right? What kind of toothpaste do I buy? Crest, right? Or Colgate. Right?
Well,
whatever.
Depending.
It's the one with the red thing. It's Colgate.
Oh, that's Crest.
Right? It's Crest. It doesn't matter, right?
I have no idea.
And that even there, right? I've been so spoken to and so like, just programmed to have this brand loyalty, this thing that I trust, right? And it's whatever. If I read something online that it was horrible, or I saw the news rather, I'd be like, oh wow, I guess I should question my loyalty to that brand. But I'm never going to, on my own volition, Google, is this the best toothpaste for my $7?
Right.
No. With a watch, you are. Right? With a car, you are. You're going to look up the ratings. You're going to look up the safety, all that shit.
Yeah.
Okay?
An incredibly wide audience, too.
Exactly.
So, taking all of that, we obviously have some cons.
They've nailed the customer journey so far. Talk to me about cons.
The cons are really all due to Tudor being a young brand. This rebirth of Tudor being a young brand. So this is where we'll go from cons to looking ahead, because we have to look ahead to see. But first thing, they are winning, but really where they are dominating and winning is in their dive watches. They don't really have a robust offshoot of that. Tudor right now, I think is most associated as like, oh yeah, the Black Bay dive watch is sick. I love that watch. But when we start to look out at chronographs, it's like, yeah, that's a Black Bay chrono. It's cool, but it's not their actual winner yet. Right. The Black Bay diver is.
Celebrities and history, right? It's kind of an offshoot, but it's very related.
Sure.
Celebrities and history, culture, does not seldom rewards the brands at this level.
Right.
Omega gets the reward because they are the Moon Watch. That's virtually it.
Oh, they made it.
They made it.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
Right? For what other reason does Omega have, meaning culturally, have the incredible cachet that they do? They have a stronger brand than Tudor. Certainly.
Right.
And now they've earned it on an objective level. I agree with that. Omega has been behind far more developments, far more than Tudor. You can't even compare the two things. Tudor's a cheap Rolex.
The whole point of Tudor is that it was a cheaper version of Rolex.
But I'm talking about culturally, right? What is the real narrative? Omega's more valuable. Okay? How does Tudor knock down that objection at the point of sale?
You're right.
And it's creating culture. Right? How do they do that? Because they haven't done it yet.
Right. I would say that is probably the biggest con. The culture of Tudor is a little generic, a little lost.
I think they storytell a little bit better on their history. I think the same way that no one knew or cared that Panerai was the Italian Navy, and then people found out when Panerai told the world, even though they weren't anymore, they weren't even Italian watches anymore. Didn't matter. Tudor can storytell on their history, and I don't know a lot of it, but specifically...
Well, that's the reason you don't know a lot.
But even I should know, right? Because I'm in watches. But what about the French Marine Nationale, the French divers, right?
Which is interesting because...
They have the same thing.
And you see the FXD watch, and you're like, oh, that has to do with like... it's like commissioned. It's like, no, push that a lot more.
Exactly.
They are winning with dive watches.
Right.
I think their biggest thing is like you need another. Not that you won't survive, because AP and Patek, well, not Patek, I shouldn't say, but AP is a Royal Oak brand now essentially. But not that you won't survive, but to really be that famous brand, Rolex, every watch is a hit.
Yes.
Maybe not the Cellini, but still, you need at least one more. You need to show we did it, we can do it again.
And I think that solution, right, is something that is a departure from a dive watch, right?
Yep.
Something a little bit different, still fundamentally robust, but something a little bit different. I also think, and Tudor was right about it with the gold Black Bay. I know that you're not a fan, but I really am.
I'm not a fan of the specific colors and stuff like that. I think it's fantastic.
If you have a lot of money, right? If you're just you're fucking a rich celebrity.
Yeah.
What Tudor are you going to wear? The answer is, maybe the gold Black Bay. That sounds wild.
Yeah, right.
Because there's no real other answer, right? Everything else is boring to you, right?
Right.
If you're really like interested in diving, then the Pelagos Titanium, I could totally see you getting excited about.
Left-hand
You're not going
drive,
to wear a Rolex. Like you're just not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But for the average celebrity to actually get excited about something, to really like it, I would just start making a few sick, precious pieces in a different, not just in Black Bay, but in a different collection.
Exactly.
I think that would murder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Produce something that won't necessarily be a mass market success, because most people aren't going to buy a $25,000 Tudor.
Of course.
But if you can cheat your way into celebrity and into culture through something different and precious and interesting, the trickle down will be selling more Black Bays, right?
Of course.
That's
Apple
the thing.
Watch, when they released their first watch, the edition was solid gold,
Right.
like $10,000. Everybody's freaking out.
Everyone's freaking out.
Moving on. This is really the epitome of growing pains, these next 2 points. Tudor right now clearly has a line that they upgraded and a line that they haven't gotten to yet where they're upgrading. The cases are not as slim, or the old cases are not as slim. They're not as refined. The movements aren't as nice. It looks more like an old brand for that price. So there is still that split between, well, not everything is offered in this Supreme version yet.
Right.
Like a lot of that is still
Behind the times.
Yeah, right. The original Black Bay is not my Pelagos 39. It's not my Black Bay 54. That easy to fix growing pains. And I don't expect you to fix everything at the same time.
agreed.
That's also a waste of marketing, essentially.
It's all with time.
The last thing, though, Rolex is the biggest brand in the world, as we know, but their biggest selling watch is the women's Datejust. Tudor has a women's line that is probably successful, but I think they don't have an iconic, they don't have a Black Bay of the women's line. The women's Datejust for Rolex is the Black Bay, technically, of Rolex women's watches. Tudor needs that perfect women's watch, the one that perfectly accompanies it.
You're 100% right. I have no market research on, or not even anecdotally, for fuck's sake, what
It's difficult to find.
what women want. I don't know what women want. I'm serious. I have virtually no clue. I don't know what women by and large, I don't know what women by and large want to wear on their wrist so far as watches. I don't know what
they like to eat.
What female watch buyers want, I really don't know.
Yeah.
I know what I love in the women's watch industry. I think that Longines makes a phenomenal Master Moon that I think is phenomenal.
That is
That's
great.
it's one of the greatest ladies' watches out there. Period. End.
Yeah.
But beyond, I know that obviously the Cartier bracelets are an icon, right? The problem with the Cartier bracelets is they are expensive, and most people, maybe they have one $6,000 purchase. Now, I'm talking about most luxury buyers.
Yeah.
They have one $6,000 purchase, one splurge. They can't do the bracelet and the watch, right? They have to do one or the other. It's also on a price point level. The woman, if women are buying for jewelry, right? I don't know, if they've got multiple and they can afford multiple, are they going to get a Tudor? So maybe it's not that person, right? You really want to target the people that have one bracelet or none. Right? Maybe it's that. The women that have the stack, I don't see them wearing a lady's Tudor. It's just not on par.
I don't see your mom wanting a Tudor.
My mom's probably not going to wear a lady's Tudor. It's probably not going to happen.
Exactly.
Right? It's possible. If they produce something really, really interesting and cool and fun, and who the fuck knows? My mom kind of falls into the bracket of, oh, it's $3,000. That's kind of cool. That's another set of women's buyers,
Right.
But for the women that do spend money on luxury goods, it's got to be that's fun. So there's got to be a lot of fun in it.
Yeah.
Whereas for everyone else, if you go too fun, then it becomes like, oh, I can't wear that every day. And you need the everyday woman. You need the woman that's wearing a watch and she's proud of it, and it's not just a fun little toy she puts on once a fucking month, or their summer bullshit toy watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a very tough market considering our analytics on YouTube are 97% male.
97% male.
It's
Exactly. I haven't talked to a woman in months.
You're like, where are they?
Where are they?
Because the other option would be like, well, they need the Tudor line in a 34 size instead, or whatever. 37 is also not that big, but it's like that market we definitely know is just not that robust.
Right.
So with all that said, the cons list is obviously incredibly short. Most of it is probably just going to be fixed within the coming years. So who can they beat? I'm talking Rolex, Omega, Longines, people in this area.
They'll never beat Rolex. Rolex is so far ahead of everyone; it'll never happen. I do think they could beat everyone else.
Really? And then what do you see? It doesn't have to be long. What do you see 5 years? What do you see 10 years? I can also go first. Not in terms of who's you're beating, what Tudor looks like.
I see 5 years, you see a fully formed Tudor. You see everything that you are talking about, I think you'll see achieved in 5 years. People that lead Tudor, I don't know the international heads. I know the domestic people.
Sure.
And they're just incredibly smart. And I think they listen to their audience really closely. They can quote YouTube channels. That's not everything.
Right.
But they're listening, and they are trying to build an enormous company. Again, they're Rolex employees, right? Basically, these are serious executives, and I think that they are going to build an absolute behemoth. And I think that you will see a fully formed Tudor in 5 years. I think right now Tudor's pretty formed.
Oh yeah,
but you'll see a fully formed Tudor in 5 years. In 10, God knows.
I think right now we're looking at something that's like you have everything together. You just need to start pulling the laces. On the site, we'll see Black Bay. You click Black Bay, it opens up. Close that. There's another line that's successful.
Yep.
Click that, opens up. That's the big thing that I think. And the other thing is, I know it's funny to say it's important to be online, to be talking to YouTubers, but it's also very interesting to brands that are incredibly opposed to it because you look at the sizes of YouTube channels now,
It's
like
incredibly
500,000, 800,000. Like it's an insane size when you're talking about the fact that the new Tudor release, whatever, got 100,000 views on 5 channels. That's 500,000 views. Rolex sells 1 million watches a year. Do you know how incredible of a audience is out there studying things?
100%.
And Tudor, just really going to that point, is starting to reach out to people and be like, we need to do something together. Because the person who's capturing the YouTubers, the TikTokers, this and that, maybe not the current generation, but every other generation that starts to get into things is going to have a wealth of knowledge about Tudor.
Agreed. Well, cheers to Tudor. I think they are doing it, and they will do it. And I think that, listen, there can be multiple winners, right? Tudor beating Omega, if that did happen, doesn't mean Omega loses. Omega's still making billions of dollars. And
Exactly.
They're very successful, right? At a certain level, competition just becomes sport.
It's really just fascinating to look at the leaderboard.
Exactly. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, like it. Physically like it, please.
Yeah.
And if you love watches, subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to listen to more of our Watch Count, we do a weekly podcast. Click down below. The link is at the 0. It is not free, but we give out so much in credits that it's basically free over the year. And that's it. If you do join, go ahead and shoot me a DM. We can't respond to all of the YouTube comments. It's just not feasible. But I can do it over on the 0. So we will have a little chat. Hope to see you guys over there.